On Tuesday, June 23rd, 3 more U.S. states will have their primary elections. The first of these is Maryland, and the topic of this episode, the 28th in our series analyzing the 2026 congressional primary elections for all 50 U.S. states. Maryland is a state with a population of around 6.25 million people. This gives them 7 seats in the House of Representatives. Currently, Democrats hold a majority of their House seats, 7 out of the 8 available. They also hold both Senate seats, and the governor is Democrat Wes Moore. Many of these congressional races in the state will be safe for the Democratic nominee, which means the real elections are in the primary. During this election cycle, neither of their U.S. senators are up for re-election. As things are now, it would be ideal to replace all 8 of their House incumbents. Just electing Democrats, blue no matter who, is how this country got to fascism in the first place. The way out is not to continue electing the same centrist and liberal politicians. We need public servants ready to fight for a better social contract. In Maryland's 1st District, this is their only district held by a Republican, and unfortunately, out of the 4 candidates running, none were inspiring enough to earn approval. The Republican incumbent won previously in 2024 with 59.6% of the vote. Whoever among those 4 Democrats wins the primary, I doubt they'll inspire enough voters to win in November. Although, the least worst option appeared to be Victor Dyches, so maybe support him in the primary. On a more positive note, in the remaining 7 districts, voters will have the opportunity to vote for better Democratic candidates. Before we discuss them, we'll first review the primary process the candidates and voters must navigate to win, followed by a quick reminder of what it takes to earn the secular lefty approval as a congressional candidate. Maryland uses a standard partisan process, like in most states. However, they allow the political parties to decide which registered voters may participate in their primaries. As of September 2025, both the Democrats and Republicans use closed primaries. This means to vote in either party's primary, you must be affiliated with that party. For a candidate to win, they only need a plurality of votes. Whoever gets the most votes wins. There will not be a runoff election. The registration deadline is 21 days before the election on June 2nd, which this video might not be out in time for. Even so, if you are watching this before your election day on June 23rd, Maryland allows same-day voter registration. It's still not too late to register, and there are congressional candidates worth voting for. There are also most likely additional state and local level races in your area as well. This video should be a component of your political research, not the totality of it. While I don't have time to research everything, here's what makes a congressional candidate spotlighted in this series worth voting for. I understand why millions of Americans don't want to register or vote for Democrats. For decades, the party and a majority of their politicians have violated the people's trust. They have provided little to no vision on how to make our lives better. They've abandoned regular people in exchange for money from the corrupt oligarchy and the robber baron Epstein class. As I spotlight candidates throughout this series, good candidates will have these policies on their campaign websites. Great candidates will be discussing these policies nonstop at town halls and other in-person events with their communities. While this list is by no means complete, it is my best attempt to list out every immediate priority on one screen. Not every approved candidate is going to agree on every policy, but the more the better. Any candidate who has a decent policy page and has been endorsed by any one of the 10 trusted political groups will be an approved candidate. Occasionally, there may be reasons where I won't agree with a particular endorsement, and I'll explain on a case-by-case basis. Most times, this will happen when there are multiple progressives running in the same race. When looking for congressional candidates to support, here are some important statements and candidate actions to be vigilant of. If a candidate doesn't have a policy page or any social media presence, one of 2 things tends to be true. Best case scenario, they are terrible at campaigning and just don't know how to message. Worst case, they are being vague and hide from their constituents on purpose. They are empty suits to be funded by those in the oligarchy and protect their interests, not fight for yours. If those candidates do appear in an interview or a debate with other candidates, listen closely to the language and terms they use to discuss policies. Take healthcare as an example. Are the candidate statements vague and only suggest repairing the damage done by Trump and his administration, or are they fighting clearly for Medicare for all, or at least some version of a single-payer health insurance program? We can't trust the phrase universal healthcare anymore. This used to describe plans like Medicare for All, but has been more recently adopted by centrists and liberals to describe their public option plans. Public option would have been fine 10 to 15 years ago, but we can't continue with these half measures that allow the for-profit healthcare system to continue to harm millions of people every year. We must demand a Medicare for All single-payer insurance program from our next members of Congress. One final thing to be aware of, and many of you already are, when candidates only speak about how they aren't Donald Trump or not a Republican, that is not a campaign message, and millions, including myself, are tired of hearing it. This and other vague, empty statements must no longer be acceptable. We cannot keep electing the same establishment corporatists and MAGA fascists and expecting our lives to improve, because it will not happen. If we are going to improve our lives, we the people need to elect better representatives who will fight to make that happen. We will now discuss the candidates in Maryland who are doing just that. Starting in the 2nd District, the options are to re-elect the corrupt incumbent or elect Clint Spellman Jr. While Clint doesn't have at this moment any endorsements from the approved groups, and while his policy page isn't exactly among the best I've seen, his platform still provides enough evidence he would be better than the incumbent. If Clint is out in his communities and talking with voters, then he may have a chance of defeating the incumbent. Next, the approved candidate is Dyches, running in the 3rd District. This race includes the incumbent and 3 other candidates who aren't all that inspiring. Currently, Austin's endorsements include citizens impeachment and Track APAC. Although I would hope Our Revolution might also endorse, considering the local Our Revolution in Howard County, Maryland, did endorse Austin. It would also be extremely beneficial for other groups like Justice Democrats or the Sunrise Movement to endorse Austin in this race. Defeating an incumbent is never easy, and with large amounts of money involved and how in most cases, current Congress members won't endorse a primary challenger of someone in their own party. When looking at policy, his campaign's policy page is one of the best I have seen, comparable to primary winner Chris Rabb in Pennsylvania's 3rd District, and aligns with many of the previously mentioned trusted political groups. When you go to his page, he has 28 well-thought-out policy topics that provide a clear idea where he stands on each. His first policy is healthcare, and he makes it clear. 1. Medicare for all. I support Medicare for all because healthcare is a human right. So many politicians still can't be bothered to say that simple message, and those are the ones who should never be elected. He then also goes on into some extra details about his plan. This is a great balance of providing the message to the potential voter of what you support without making them read a short story or your rough draft of legislation. Provide it as an option if the voter wants to read more about the details, but don't make it the only option on your website. People don't want to scroll through just walls and walls of text. And it's more infuriating when it's a centrist who writes 5 or more paragraphs only to say nothing of substance. It's very annoying, and they are extremely talented at it. His second priority is taxing the wealthy, including a 2% annual wealth tax on those with $50 million or more, and 3% on those with fortunes over $1 billion. To anyone concerned for the multimillionaires and billionaires' wealth, don't worry, they would be fine. 2% of $50 million is $1 million that they would have to pay. That is not going to bankrupt them, and that additional point for the billionaires, I don't think even goes far enough. But this is certainly a great starting policy position that many more candidates should discuss. For his third priority, he addresses the minimum wage, calling for an increase to $25 an hour and passing the PRO Act. Again, this is a candidate demonstrating in his policy page he is a candidate fighting for regular working people, not the oligarchy of this country. As mentioned, he has 28 of these policies in total, and if you live in Maryland's 3rd, I would highly recommend you check out his website, learn more about him, and vote for Dyches on June 23rd. In the 4th District, there is another fantastic progressive challenger to replace the corrupt incumbent. That candidate is Jakeya Johnson. She is endorsed at this time by Citizens Impeachment, Progressive Victory, and Track APAC. Now, this race has 5 people currently running, and it doesn't help that Citizens Impeachment did a dual endorsement in this race. If we as Democratic Socialists, Social Democrats, Lefties, Progressives, whichever label you prefer, but if we want our unifying policies passed into legislation, for each congressional race, we must unify behind one candidate for the best chances of winning, and the only chance of winning against an incumbent in a primary election. When looking at the money in this race, the picture is bleak. The incumbent is well funded, to be expected. The approved candidate is in third and not far behind second, but they are both still very underfunded to be a competitive campaign. Her policies are good. She would be the best candidate you can send to Congress, as again, the real candidate selection is in the primary. In at least 7 of the 8 Maryland districts, whoever wins the Democratic primary will win again in the general. For those in Maryland's 4th, send your best. Vote for Jakeya Johnson on June 23rd. Unfortunately, despite in the last district how after I just discussed how important it is to only approve one candidate and unify around, well, in the 5th district, I'm giving you 3 options. Sorry. The geriatric incumbent, 86-year-old Steny Hoyer, who has been serving since 1981, has decided to not run for another term. Great. That decision probably should have been made a decade ago, but hey, good. This open seat has now led to a clown show of an election with 24 candidates making a run for the seat in this Democratic primary alone. I'm going to be honest with you. I did not put the time into researching all 24 candidates. Sorry, there's other states and things I need to get to. However, there are 3 candidates that had a combination of decent policy pages, an endorsement of a trusted group, and their campaign showing financial viability. So for the 5th district, out of those 24 candidates, here's who I can recommend. Harry Dunn, who is endorsed by the Working Families Party, or Harry Jarin, endorsed by Citizens Impeachment, or Blegay, endorsed by Our Revolution. While I would have greatly preferred these groups figured out one candidate to rally behind, there are also 24 candidates running, so support for every demographic and political lens is going to be split by some margin. This is going to be a wild and interesting primary to see how the results come in. The win condition, as a reminder, is plurality with no minimum required. Whoever gets the most votes wins, and that could very easily be with someone earning less than 25% of the vote. Most likely, 3 of these candidates with competing views will get a bulk of the votes. Whoever wins will depend if a candidate has a good ground game with volunteers, or if an establishment-backed candidate is able to buy their way in with campaign ads. When looking at the money in this race, the candidate with the most money is someone I haven't mentioned yet. And the only reason for that is because they haven't been endorsed by any of the approved groups, while 3 other candidates were. I can't say with certainty they are the establishment's corrupt corporate-backed candidate. The evidence might be out there, and their vast lead in financial contributions just might be the evidence itself. Harry Dunn, the Working Families Party candidate, is in second with money raised, although his cash on hand is about equal to the corporate puppet. Harry Jarin and Blegay are about even in 4th place with a competitive amount of funds raised. I suppose I would vote for Harry Dunn, assuming his background and campaigning efforts are better than that of the other Harry or Wallace. But I don't have that time to dig deeper, and again, many candidates, 24 in fact, are in this race. But if you decide between one of the 2 Harrys or Walla, you'll be voting for one of the best candidates in this race, and I just can't say with 100% certainty which is best. What I can say with 100% certainty is don't vote for any of the 21 other options. They're not worth your vote when there are 3 much better candidates fighting for you. In the 6th district, we have another crowded field, though far less than the previous. 8 candidates in total are running, including the corporate incumbent. In this district, the progressive option is clear. If you want a better representative, vote for Ethan Wechtaluk. He is endorsed by Citizens Impeachment, Progressive Victory, and Track APAC. Now, in terms of the money, not looking too good. His campaign has more than 0, but considerably less than what a competitive campaign requires to win. While the incumbent has a sizable amount of money, there is someone else with millions of dollars more. I can guarantee neither of those candidates have your best interests as their priority. Ethan Wechtaluk does, and hopefully he is out talking with constituents and building a strong volunteer network. If so, he could still win, but without that, then he's just another candidate with a decent policy page and nothing more. Moving on to the 7th district, there are 4 candidates running. Unlike in the 5th district, the 77-year-old geriatric incumbent Kwesi Mufuma is going to run for re-election. I mean, hell, why not? Steny was in Congress till 86. But because, like Steny and every corporate Democrat that's been in office for decades or more, you have to ask, what policies have they actually fought for that have improved lives of regular people, not those in the corporate oligarchy? The voters in the 7th District have a better option. Mark Conway is the only candidate of the 4 with a policy page that meets the approval requirements. He is endorsed by Track APAC, and when looking at the money, he is in a much better position to run a competitive campaign. Voters in the 7th District, don't vote for the geriatric incumbent. You deserve a better representative who is fighting for bold policy changes. The approved candidate is Mark Conway. The last district to discuss in Maryland is their 8th. The district currently held by Jamie Raskin, and while he is endorsed by Our Revolution, I don't agree. He has a mixed record, some good, nothing too terrible. He generally appears to vote on the side of the people. He's even a co-sponsor of the House Medicare for All bill. Whether or not he'll actually vote for it when the time comes, that's what I don't know and what concerns me. In all likelihood, he'll probably win the nomination, and there are certainly worse Democratic incumbents out there. However, if you live in this district, there is at least one other candidate that you should consider voting for. Boris Velasquez is a candidate running on a decent progressive platform. However, that's also where the information around him begins and ends. He doesn't have any financial resources making him competitive, and he isn't endorsed by any trusted political group. If I were to endorse Jamie Raskin, he needs to be clearer on the issues he supports and be less theatrical. His website lists no policy positions, so who knows if he'll actually fight for the progressive policies he talks about, or if it's just theatrics to earn your vote, only to then ignore your needs on the House floor. I would vote for Boris Velasquez, and while I'd hope many other voters make the same decision, I don't see that happening. So best case, just keep the pressure on Jamie Raskin so he continues making better policy choices. And there you have it, folks, the secular lefty approved candidates for Maryland. Replacing incumbents is no easy task, but for at least a couple of these districts, there are candidates with decent policies and putting in the work to win. But what do you think? Is there any important information I missed? Who will you be voting for? Let me know in the comments. As stated earlier, Maryland is not voting alone on June 23rd. The other 2 states are New York and Utah, with the next episode being on New York. The last state voting in June is Colorado on the 30th. Stay tuned for more primary info on those upcoming states. Be sure you're subscribed and ring that bell to be notified of my newest videos. If you found anything I said in today's video useful, please give it a like and share it everywhere. Together, we can make Americans more educated, and hopefully that will result in better election outcomes. Until the next video, please consider checking out my other work on this channel. Any additional watch time and shares will help the channel reach more people and is greatly appreciated. Thank you again for listening. Take care.